After 8 long years of running my father's company, I had finally made it a success. Anderson and Company was now worth $97 million. I gave everything I had to build it up, my time, my energy, my life. Then, during a family dinner meant to celebrate, everything changed. My father smiled at me, proud and calm. Then he put his hand on my brother's shoulder and said words that hit me like a punch in the stomach. "Your brother will take over now." My heart sank, but I didn't show it. I had learned how to hide my feelings. I smiled, pretending I was okay, even though those words crushed 8 years of my hard work. The room was full of happy talk, clinking glasses, and people saying, "Congratulations." This night was supposed to be about what we had built, about what I had built. But in that moment, I became invisible. I remembered growing up and watching my father struggle to keep the company alive. It was just a small logistics business back then. He worked long hours, skipped vacations, and gave everything he had to keep it going. When I finished business school at 26, I had to fight just to be allowed to help, but once I got in, everything changed. I turned that small business into a national success. I brought in big contracts, used new technology, and made the company better in every way. And yet, none of that mattered. My brother, Peter, was now taking over. He had never cared about the company. For years, he jumped from one failed idea to another, always looking for the easy way. He didn't care about logistics. He didn't care about building something real. He only cared about having power. Now, people were clapping for him and congratulating him like he had earned it. He acted humble, but I knew it was fake. He had been waiting for this. He knew how to look good in front of our father, the perfect son, ready to take charge. And my father, stuck in old ways, thought that only a son could lead the family business. In his mind, I was just a daughter, a temporary part of the plan. No matter how hard I worked, I was never meant to be the one in charge. But what they didn't know was this: I hadn't just helped the company grow. I had built it, and I had secured my place in it. While they held on to outdated beliefs, I made sure I had control. Every major client, every smart decision, every plan for the future, I had been behind all of it. And the next morning, they would find out what that meant. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the sacrifices I'd made, the late nights, the hard choices, the missed birthdays. I had given everything for this business. Now, they expected me to just walk away. They had no idea who they were dealing with. By 4 a.m., I was in my home office, lit only by my computer screen. I pulled up every important document, contracts, ownership papers, agreements. I had been preparing for this moment for years. No one knew this company better than I did. Not my father, not Peter. Peter thought he'd be CEO by next week. But while he chased pipe dreams and Dad played the proud founder, I was quietly working on something more important: control. At 9 a.m., I walked into the office like I had every day for 8 years. Same floors, same buzz of phones and keyboards. But today, it felt different. Today, this wasn't just an office, it was a battlefield. People whispered when I passed, some looked away. They had heard about my father's announcement. I didn't stop walking. My heels clicked on the floor as I moved with purpose. I stepped into my office and closed the door. I had 12 minutes before they showed up, ready to take over. I sat at my desk, took a deep breath, and turned on my computer. Everything I needed was already there. At 9 a.m., sharp, someone knocked. I didn't answer. They came in anyway. My father walked in first, confident as always. Peter followed behind, dressed like a CEO. Already looking proud. "Anna," my father said politely, "I assume you know about the leadership change." "Leadership change?" I repeated, calm. "Yes, I know." "Good," he said, "Peter will take over as CEO. We need your help to bring him up to speed before you step down." "Step down?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. He didn't like that. "Anna," he said, colder now, "this isn't up for discussion." I smiled. "I know, Dad, you don't get to make that decision." Peter rolled his eyes. "Come on, Anna, don't make this a big deal, let's just do this the easy way." I ignored him. Instead, I clicked a button on the remote. A big screen lit up behind me, showing one document: Executive Shareholders Agreement. Neither of them had read it. But I had, many times. I pointed at a section. This says any big decision, like naming a new CEO, must be approved by all majority shareholders. Then I looked at my dad. And I own 72% of the company. The room went quiet. Peter stepped closer, pale and nervous. That's not possible, he said. Oh, it's very possible, I said. I reminded him, in 2014, Dad gave me 22% of his shares when he needed money. In 2016, he gave me 14% more during a legal problem. I already owned 31%. That added up to 72%. Peter turned white. You can't do this, he said, looking at Dad. Tell her she can't do this. But my father stayed silent. He knew I was right. I hadn't cheated, I had just played smarter. I stood up. I'm not firing you, Peter. You can stay and work under me. Or you can leave. Peter looked at our father, hoping for help. But for the first time, Dad had no answer. This wasn't his company anymore. It was mine. Without me, his mouth tightened. Business is bigger than one person, he said. We can find a way that works for everyone. I tilted my head, pretending to think it over. I agree, I said. That's why I'm giving both of you a choice. I looked at Peter first. You can stay in the company, I said, calmly. You won't be CEO, you'll be an advisor, you'll get a good salary, but with limited power, and you'll report to me. Peter stiffened but stayed quiet. He got the message. The power had shifted, and it wasn't going back to him. I continued. Or, you can leave. I'll buy your shares for a fair price. Take the money, start something new, do what you want. My father scoffed. You're acting like you're in charge of everything. I gave a small smile. That's because I am. The room went quiet. I let the silence hang. I wanted them to feel it, to understand that they no longer had control, that the game had changed. Finally, my father sighed and shook his head. He looked shocked. I never thought you'd do this, he said softly. Not to your own family. His words stung more than I expected. Not to your own family. I wanted to tell him that he was the one who started this, that he pushed me aside, treated me like I didn't belong, but I didn't say it. It didn't matter anymore. What mattered was this: I wasn't going to let them take what I built. Not now, not ever. Peter stormed out first. Good riddance. I knew what he'd do next. Run to our relatives, our old friends, trying to make himself look like the victim. Let him. I wasn't trying to win their approval. I was focused on protecting my future. My father stayed a bit longer, maybe thinking I'd change my mind. I didn't. When he saw that, he gave a slow nod. You've changed, he said quietly. I looked him in the eye. No, Dad, I just stopped pretending. Then he left too. I let out a long breath and sat back down in my chair. I should have felt proud. I had fought for my place and won. But instead, I felt something else, a quiet sadness. A small part of me still wanted his approval. I had worked for years hoping he'd finally see what I'd done, but he never had. Now, he had no choice. He didn't see a daughter anymore. He saw the real me, the leader of Anderson Company. I turned back to my computer. My focus shifted. I had spent 8 years building this business. Now I'd spend the next 8 making it unstoppable. They had tried to take everything from me. Instead, they lost everything. For the first time in over 10 years, my office was quiet. No calls from my father, no annoying emails from Peter, just silence. But silence didn't mean peace. It meant the start of a fight. I knew they wouldn't give up easily. My father wouldn't leave quietly. Peter believed he deserved this company, just because of his name. I wasn't foolish enough to think it was over. This was just the beginning.